It's Mike, NoStressMike.com. Now I'm starting to get in some kind of a schedule, I guess you might call it. And one thing, I've been watching some news, and it looks like Cuba has been kind of in the news. So that's what I want to talk about, Cuba. Let's see now. My experience in Cuba was in 2000, the year 2000. I was there. I used to go, I used to make my plans around 4th of July every year. And but this particular year, it was going to, it was a travel companion and going to Cuba. And I've never known this guy, never met him. So it was just a new thing for me. I didn't know anything about him. Now, at that time, year 2000, it was illegal for Americans to go to Cuba. I think after that sometime, they made it, if it was you're going through education kind of thing, if you talk to the Cuban government, you'd be able to go. But at the time when I went, no. Let's see, I don't remember exactly when, but Russia pulled out of Cuba. I think it was either the early or mid 90s, 1990s, when Russia pulled out. And when Russia pulled out, that really took the air out of Cuba. And, I mean, they had nothing. The only thing they had up to then was whatever Russia would give them. But anyway, so Russia pulled out, and so they were more open to Americans. Now, it was illegal for Americans to go to Cuba from as being an American. Now, I got an American passport. So what they did was what they would do is they would stamp a piece of paper, and that paper would go inside your passport. That's what they did. Okay, so in other words, the Cuban government allowed Americans to come in. Now, I made a video. I think I made a video talking about when I went a travel companion. There was somebody I went with, but they put us in jail. First thing, got off the plane at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They put us in jail. We didn't get out until 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not going to talk about that. That's I already made a video talking about that. But anyway, what I do want to talk about is my experience. Okay, now that was, I want to say, the first communist country. Yeah, it was. It was the first communist country that I've gone to. And it was, so that was one reason why I took the job. I've never been to a communist country. I thought, hey, that'd be kind of cool. So I met this guy at the Mexico airport. There's no flights going directly to Cuba because it's illegal. So what you could do is go to another country, and then from that country you could go into Cuba. And that's what we did. When I met him in Mexico City, and then we flew, I think it was a French airline that we flew from Mexico City to Cuba. And when we got there, they put us in jail. That's a whole nother story. They finally let us out at 10 o'clock. And and I was kind of concerned. I was getting concerned. The longer we were there, the more concerned I was. But anyway, I was able to get out of the situation. And matter of fact, I got out of it really good. I got out of it. Remember that paper that they stamped and they put in the thing? Okay. The paper was stamped, but I was not only stamped, but I got permission to go any place in Cuba I wanted to. no limits. I can go any place. And so, and at the time, I didn't think, what's the big deal? Now, after I've been to China, I found out it's a big deal. But anyway, I rented a car. And, well, first, the first few days, I hung around Havana. But that's the first thing I learned when I got there. It's not Havana, it's Habana. So, I don't know. The maps all say Havana, but when I got there, everybody called it Habana. So I learned that it's Habana. So, and everything, all the movies you see when they show there's a road that goes along the ocean, and there's a wall there, and the water would splash up there. I was along there. I went along there. I hung around that. That's kind of the main kind of thing right there. A lot of people would walk along there. But it was the people. I had a very difficult time. Like I say, I don't speak Spanish, and at that time in Cuba, they spoke Spanish and Russian. And both of those they're not my language, neither one of them, so it didn't do me no good. So it was difficult to communicate. Now, I did find, now this is another thing I forgot. What I did was I just go around and I see somebody and say, hey, do you speak English? And that's how I start up my conversations. If I find somebody who speaks English, good, I'm ready to go. I forgot about that. Even when I was in China, I forgot about it. It took me a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, before I figured out all you got to do is say, do you speak English? And then the ones that speak English, there's a reason they speak English. And they want to practice and they want to talk to you. So but in Cuba, there was very, very few people that spoke English. And so I'd ask everybody and every once in a while I'd find somebody, and they didn't want to talk to me like you and I are talking. I mean, you're just right here. You're right here in front of me. They weren't. They would stay about 6 foot away from me, and they would want to walk. And so we would walk kind of parallel next to each other, and there'd be about 6 foot between us. And I can't hear real good. And so then they're over there kind of talking. I'm asking questions. I'm trying to find out information, and it's very difficult like that. And then pretty soon, they would just kind of veer off, go off, talk, just go off, stop talking to me, and just go off. And I thought, well, what did I say? Did I say something to insult them or something like that? So, but this kept up. And then another thing that I learned is I do have another ace in the hole, and that is I am half Chinese. And every large populated area has a Chinatown, including Havana. It had a Chinatown. So I went over to the Chinatown. And I go over there wasn't no Chinese. Never seen a Chinatown with no Chinese. What there was like me. There were more half-breed Chinese. And so I stumbled around in there and trying to talk, and it was tough. Another thing these Chinese communities it's a Chinese club. They'll call it a Chinese club. Sometimes they call it a Chinese association. And I don't know if other ethnic groups do that, but the Chinese do. And when they meet, they come together. There's not well, they have certain meeting days, but it's also like a clubhouse. They go hang around there because now they have some people they can talk Chinese to, talk back and forth. That's why they go there. And so I went in there, and and I found some old man that spoke English. And so then he answered a lot of my questions. And one of the things was like I say, I talk to people and they just go away. And then he explained to me, in Cuba, everybody works for the government. And you have to have certifications to do the work that they want you to do. Okay, one of the jobs that they have is talking to tourists. And so you have to go take the classes and stuff, and you learn the rules, what you can talk about, what you can't, and where the tourists can go and where they can't, and all kinds of stuff. What you can say, what you can't. So, and they had like an ID. It's a small looking passport, and you use that to they got your medical history in there. All your certificates are all written down inside there. I mean, you're certified to do this, certified to do that, and so that's all written in there. And if you've been a bad communist, what they'll do is they'll go to a certain part there, and then they'll date it, and they'll write on there what it is that you did wrong. And so that's why they couldn't talk to me, because and what they do is they see somebody talking to me, they'd call them over. Not me, I don't get in trouble. But as a tourist, you don't get in trouble. But the people talking to me, they would want to see their ID, and they'd look to see if they're certified to talk to tourists. If they are, then it's no big deal. And if they're not, then they write in there, they caught them talking to a tourist, and the date and stuff. And what happens, every month you get a coupon book, about like that,